the financial shock, which began in 1991 in Jamaica, ballooned unchecked over the next 5 years until it exploded with a catastrophic bang in 1996. The explosion left shrapnel scattered over the financial landscape, which still impacted on the economy so many years later. Sister Valerie Dixon is a survivor of that shock that the Observer talk about, a survivor of the government's response to the financial crisis of the 1990s. And she has, as we have said, written her book, Too Black to Succeed, the Finsac Experience, on the phone lines. Lady President of the UNIA Kingston chapter, educator, author, entrepreneur, and grandmother. My sister Valerie Dixon,
So what I want to bring out this morning is that a lot of people do not understand where this thing came from. And I want to just read a little from an appendix that was written in the Observer some time ago. It says, when Omar Davies, then PNP finance minister in the 1990s, began the process of dismantling the Central National Bank, it was done immediately after the Don Crawford-run entity had bought a significant sum of U.S. dollars at a few dollars more than the price that the official exchange rate indicated. The bank did nothing which other banks were not doing in a time when an inept PNP government was struggling with managing a market economy which it knew little or nothing about. What the sale of those dollars did was reveal that the very same finance ministry was covertly, that means underground, dispatching agents with huge stacks of cash in the trunks of their cars to buy U.S. dollars at prices above the official exchange rate. The money was stolen eventually. With blood rushing to its head, when this action was revealed, an embarrassed PNP government set about withdrawing public funds from the Central National Bank, making it publicly known. And in the process, it started or triggered a run on the bank which was seemingly designed to end its life. That, however, is a sad history for the most progressive bank existing in Jamaica at that time. So if you withdraw money from the most progressive bank at the time, what do you think is bound to happen? It is going to trigger what is known as a domino effect. There's going to be a run or a rush on the bank for people trying to get out their monies. And we do not understand, most of us, what the effect or the repercussions or the consequences of such a run on a bank would actually do. Because if you affect one thing over here, it is going to affect other things over there. You and your husband, you were in the construction industry. Talk to us about that. Yes. And I think the whole world understands that when you're in the construction industry, unfortunately, you have to be the one who is, well, it wouldn't be wise for you to capitalize that job you have out of your own pocket. So you are dependent on the banking system to finance you upfront, because in construction you have to put down the building, and as you go along you can then certify that the work is done so you can get paid from the client. But in the meantime, you have your expenses such as salaries and wages, you have your utility bills, you have your suppliers, you have everybody to pay until you get paid. So when your bank collapses, which was Workers' Bank, and you are now faced with not being able to get funding, what do you think is going to happen? Your creditors are going to be down on you. In other words, everything now comes crashing down on you, and your only fault or crime was to go and borrow money that you must use, because nobody's going to really, as I said, finance people's houses, buildings, shopping malls, whatever, out of their own pocket, unless you're one of those types. But anyway, let me just quickly go on. So you are faced with Hobson's choice, which is no choice at all. You have to give collateral in order to secure these loans. And by collateral, we mean you have got to mortgage something or give up something for the bank to say, you want $1 million? Bring 40,000 acres worth of property come. So the bank holds on to that. Sooner or later, with your being stymied or held at almost gunpoint, you are not able to get financing. You are not able to get payment from your clients. So you have to now go and seek every possible means. And one of them is to put your house up for mortgage. Or better yet, as collateral again. I will just read quickly here what another one of the appendix said. It said, the tragic irony is that many of those producers and manufacturers in Jamaica, trusting that their government was looking after their interest, had borrowed, sometimes pledging their homes to invest in state-of-the-art equipment to improve their efficiency, only to be crushed by the high cost of servicing the debt, that is, high interest rates, which are generally harmful.
Yes.
Many sought out new export markets to increase their sales, but lost them as their competitiveness vanished through government's exchange rate policies. Many strengthened their marketing only to be overwhelmed by the advantages given to imported competition by the government's unwise, liberalized trade policies. And I'll stop there for a moment.
Yes.
Every time it is the foreigners who get the edge or the advantage over local producers and local manufacturers who are the homegrown variety. In the Finsac debacle, we were in business for over 20 years. Another company was in business for over 50 years. Another company founded by our national hero, George Gordon, was over 100 years old. And again, we ask the question. The government contented itself to believe that companies which had been conducting business successfully for decades were suddenly struck en masse with ineptitude, stupidity, and amnesia as to how to properly run a business.
Explain to us, Val, what did the government do exactly? Because when we talk about the Finsac debacle, what exactly are we talking about?
Okay. You went to your bed last night and interest rate, let's say for argument's sake, is at 30%. You wake up this morning and you see a headline in the newspaper that says, government to increase interest rate to 64%. Please tell me which business would be able to fill that gap between paying interest rate at 30% and suddenly jump with no notice to paying interest rate at 60 and probably more. Overdraft interest rate went up overnight to 120%.
And the impact of that action on businesses was what you are describing.
That is exactly what I'm describing. So how is it that these people who are running business for over all these decades suddenly overnight become bad debtors? Do you see the point I'm making there?
Yes, as a matter of fact,
we were villainized.
Yes.
We were hounded down like common criminals. And we had to watch our businesses go up in smoke. While foreign investors came in, they got tax breaks, they got tax holidays, and we were what? Flung aside and discarded as rubbish. We were called bad debtors.
As a matter of fact, for those who have a copy of the book, you'll see that the Appendix F, Anatomy of the Finsac Debtor, which was published in the Sunday Gleaner 2011, July 10 by Claude Clark, guest columnist, starts out by saying, and I don't know if you have that, you can read that for us, Val, where he says part of the fallout from the Finsac folly has been the summary dismissal of the thousands of productive Jamaican business persons as bad debtors. And this is what you're saying.
Yes, that after more than a century of successful Jamaican businesses, the 1990s ushered in a period in which the positive relationship between productive entrepreneurs and their financial partners or banks came to a crashing halt. Thousands of healthy Jamaican businesses, some of which had grown to become regional and world beaters, were disdainfully discarded by our national economic stewards as bad debtors. I am a teacher, and I remembered my husband coming in one evening looking very dejected and saying, "I have to take your money this month." And I said, "Which money?" "You pay, man, you pay." So I said, "Really?" Long story short, he said to me, "Which do you prefer, material wealth or your life?" So, of course, I just cut my eye and said, "It has to be my life, of course." I mean, what kind of question that? He said, "Good." So I said, "What does good mean?" "He's going to take the title of our house and go and see if he can seek some money, because the job that he's doing for the government is not paying as the contract said it should. In other words, if the government owed him $10, they would pay him 10 cents or sometimes 5 cents, just for argument's sake. Now, you cannot say the government forfeited on the contract because they're paying something. What he should have done at that stage was to end the job right then and there. But this is Jamaica. And the man has spent decades building his business. And now to be blacklisted by a bad-minded set of people who don't want to see you prosper and do well, he would never get work again in this country, because they would say and tell the public that he breached the contract by ending the job before time, and that is why they can't trust him again with any more contracts. Blacklisted, done with you. How would the man continue? I mean, this is his life you're talking about. So people who beat them chest and say, "Who, me? Give up me title, carry it, go wherever?" No, sir. They fail to understand what it means to be in a contract. Yet when the government did breach our contract, it was hell and powder house to prove to people that we were not inept, that we were not stupid, that we were not forgetful, that we were literally destroyed overnight because of the high interest rates that we could not meet, no matter how many titles did in a shed pan underneath the bed.
Jamaican
and every
businesses.
One of those 44,000 Jamaicans, they have a book to write as well. Because when you see who got our assets, and I want to bring this point out quickly, we as the so-called bad debtors offered the government of the day to buy back our assets at 25 cents in the dollar. This is U.S. And we were refused, we were rejected. And yet they brought in a white Texan man to set up what I call a usury company and sold him our assets at 5 cents in the dollar.
Why is Jamaica silent then on the Finsac Commission report?
Because most of us as black Jamaicans, we have lost it. We have lost our cojones. Go look that up. That is Spanish. Our spine gets soft like cooked macaroni. There is one lady, and I have to give credit where credit is due, Yola Baker. She has been the first lone voice in the wilderness crying out for justice. And I don't know if it's because she's a woman, why she was treated with such ridicule at times. I said, this woman mad, she don't know what she's talking about. And yet when you hear who is living in our house, you eye them open big like saucer.
And you're talking about these houses now that was sold
by this Texan who came and bought our assets for a mere song and a dance and then resold it for profit. And most of the people who bought our assets were well connected in politics. If I tell you who got my house, but I can't do that because you know how this is Jamaica.
Yes.
So we have to just clear our throats around certain things. But this is a travesty of justice that should never go unpunished.
And
when you look and see what people bought our assets for, that we worked so hard and honestly for.
And this is why I'm saying to Jamaicans, please read Valerie's book, because she takes us on this journey. And one of the things that made me cry, Valerie, when you first told this story, my sister, you were in the studio, and I read it because you wrote about it in the book. And I know we have just a few minutes to go, but that is a story that tugged on my heart as a daughter, as a sister, when I read it, about how you found out that you'd lost your house and what you saw in a vehicle in terms of your clothes, and what you felt and how dejected you felt, and that whole, just the way you told that story and how it's written in the book. I saw the tears literally dropped onto the page as I was reading, because I felt your pain through those pages. Explain that moment to us.
It was really our very, very helpful and faithful helper who came in one Monday morning. I titled that No Ordinary Monday Morning. And she said to me, Miss D, is what number so-and-so subdivision we live at, ma'am? So I said, I gave her the number. She said, Lord have mercy, look here, ma'am. And she gave me the classified section of the newspaper. And she circled public auction, house at lot so-and-so and so, subdivision name. And believe you me, my knee went weak. I feel nothing but pure crawly. I run through my knee then. I had to grab a seat. So I said, no, sir. My husband, I forgot to explain this. What is my house doing on a public auction block? Long story short, I said, all right. Well, I forgot to use the little education now where we get that my mother insisted that I should have, and like a common sense. And we got, we don't know if this legal or not legal, but at this stage now, I don't care. We got a real estate person to come and look at the house, and he said he know the perfect man who will buy this house from us so that we can avoid having to have it on the auction block. See ya? Long story short, when we reached the lawyer now to sign the sale agreement, if you think me did have crawly in my knee back when we hear the news, and now we're going to know who the real owner is going to be. Well, I think something slapped me back to reality, and I said, well, God, whatever this is, I surrender. Because I can't do nothing about this. So the lawyer gave us about 3 months in which to pack up with roaches and come out of the people in place. This is after raising our family here for at least 2 decades. It was now no longer ours.
And you're talking about an upscale community in...
Yes, you know, shame to say.
Right.
It is a mixed community, but a lot of upscale houses were there. It was really designed for the bauxite managers, the expatriates, the white people to live in this little enclave. But things happened in the 70s, and they began to sell lots to upcoming professionals, and we were among professionals. We called us, we went to university, we went college, so we did all the right things that your mother would have been proud of. And my mother was very proud because your education is now paying dividends.
Yes.
Look here, 2 days after we went to the lawyer, I said, the real estate, I get choked up, but I'll go on. The real estate man come back and say, the lady says she want the house now. So anytime I'm nervous, I laugh. I say, oh, you mean no? Didn't we get X time to pack up with carotas and me set my few little plans and things? Him say, no, the so-and-so man said that him have to get the key, otherwise I'm not going to get any commission. So you have to move to that. Well, me did have like a business to do, so me just looked on him and husband and said, well, I don't see how I can possibly move over 20 years in one day, so wanna work it out. Hear what the man tell me, say, this so-and-so man knows of 2 houses to rent, and I must go and choose one of them. Well, you don't argue with certain kind of people in this country. So I went and I said, one of them was in the same community, so I would look at that one, because the other one wasn't suitable. See, Mom? When I reach what I think is the address, is a truck that I see in front of the gate, and there is my gardener giving instructions as to how he must come through the 2 columns them without lick down the people them gate column. When I look into the truck, listen to it, but who it? How them things they look like my things, so. When we see curtain, I mean drapery, wrap up with plate, wrap up with shoes, some sofa just catch precariously on the side of the truck, and I said, but what is happening here? So I turned to the guy, I said, what's going on? Him don't look at me all now. Him said, the man said, we have to move, ma'am. I said, but I don't even look inside of this house. I pass here every day. This house lock up how much years now? So how you mean you putting the things in that condition? He said, the man said, then don't give the key. Well, they're iron by now. Go back up the driveway to go jump in my car. Go back around the house to go see this man. When is this man now come park right in front of me? See ya? I march up to him now, fire, snap, you name it. When I look on the back seat of the man's car, not even car, car, I'm going to close that pack up from the seat right up to the ceiling.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So I believe you me, it was like Dunn's River Falls busted on my head. The eye water just gush. Here the man look at me and say, you can stand about your holler. Me have to get my commission today, and him say today 3 times. The man just palms up my clothes, man handle my clothes off his seat, encircle my clothes and burst past me, gone down the driveway, enter inside of this house that I don't look into yet. I don't know where I'm fine to put them down and come back out and take another load, and it went until the car unpacked with my clothes and then drive off.
Wow.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you know, and that is just part of the experience.
And that was just part of what happened to us, whose only crime was to create employment for Jamaicans. Because when my husband was at the top of his game, of course, you know, you're going to have the bad-minded people and who say, boy, the Dixon and this, that, and that. But he was employing from degreed architect, degreed people come right down to murderer who are wait for getting sentenced as the person who is manual labor and push barrow. That is the amount, that is the extent of what we were doing for our country as black people, as black producers, as black entrepreneurs. And this is the experience that Mythic Megalia had to go through because of government and politics.
You know,
and when I see who get that house, I'm telling you, I am telling you.
You said
one but Dunn's River bus again. So
yeah, but we leave it there. That's the question that we need to ask. who is the Finsac report protecting? And it must be a whole host of people who are being protected by while this report is under lock and key. But it's one of the injustices that's a scar on the conscience of Jamaica, and one that we want to ensure that on our watch, we do that which we are supposed to do. Yes.
Yes. Taboo, and I want to end by saying that when you see the color of the people who got bailed out, and when you see the color of the people who are under the same circumstances and were destroyed, it makes you draw the conclusion that most of us are too black to succeed. So the brown ones and white ones, too white and brown to fail, and we the black ones, too black to succeed. I'm not care who argue with me. That was my experience. I lived through it, and even now we're not quite out of the woods, but it could have worse, as them boy street would have said. Well, can you imagine a man who has never earned the reputation of being an entrepreneur, does not know what it is to find a pay bill when you have men waiting on that pay bill to go home to feed them family, and that man who has never made a pay bill in his life going to look at people who have 50 years experience as entrepreneur, black entrepreneur who built this country since independence, and you go and look on them and style them as bad debtors?
You know, Omar Davies really does have a lot to say he has not yet he needs to apologize, but he also, and he was the finance minister at the time, and this is why I'm identifying him, but he really does have to stand up before he dies and talk to those survivors, talk to those victims. Some killed themselves, some committed suicide. This is how serious this was. Talk to the Jamaican entrepreneurs, the black people in Jamaica who suffered so as a result of those of Finsac, and making peace with God and the ancestors. Val, we'll continue the conversation. Where can we get the book before you go?
The book can be had at Kingston Bookshop, any of their branches, C-Mart Bookstore in Ligani Plaza, and online, Kindle, and Amazon.com. And I don't want anybody to tell me any foolishness about, oh, you rich already, so then not support the book, because I've had that said to me. Can you imagine? No, that is the weight of the bad-mindedness.
They don't know your story.
I am trying to let the millennial generation know themselves and their identity. I don't care about money. As a matter of fact, if I could get this book sponsored, I would give it free to every Jamaican young person who is thinking of investing in Jamaica, to make certain that they never ever make what happened 20-odd years ago ever happen in this country again. But without knowledge, you have your eyes wide open in the dark because you don't know.
I have to leave it there. I'm so sorry. But on that potent, strong note, we're leaving it right there, and we'll continue the conversation. Thank you so much, my sister, and thank you for writing this book.
You're so very welcome, Kabu, and thanks for letting me get off some steam and sitting off of my chest.
All right. Well, you did in the book. You did that in the book. Thank you so much. All right. Well, good, Val. Well, good.
Bye. Thanks.
All right. So